Right, deceptive resolution is any time that you have a chord that is not resolving to where it would normally resolve. So for instance, I was mentioning before that dominant resolution, the G7 chord, resolves up to your 1 chord, okay, or the C major 7 chord. That is the typical resolution of a dominant 7th chord, is to resolve up a perfect 4th, okay, to a major, minor, or another dominant 7th chord, okay. But if I have that dominant 7th chord and I go someplace else, you know, like if I have G7 and I go to F major 7, that is a deceptive resolution, okay. Now, that particular resolution is not good, you know, or it doesn't sound all that great, it's not used all that much, but something like this, D flat dominant 7th, going down to D minor 7, or I'm sorry, D flat dominant 7th going down to D, going down to C major 7. I'm thinking about the next thing I'm going to tell you. C major 7, that is a common sound, all right? And where I was going with this is D minor 7, going down to D flat dominant 7th, going to C major 7, all right? That is a deceptive resolution with that dominant 7th chord, okay? Now, what we normally do is any type of deceptive resolution, we put it in parentheses. That way we know that that chord, right, and we put the analysis in parentheses, okay? So we could say 2 minor 7, okay? And you could kind of say flat 2, 7, and put it in parentheses, and then go down to 1. However, we're going to learn that that's not really the best way of analyzing it. You wouldn't analyze it as flat 2 dominant 7th, okay? But anyway, deceptive resolution, anytime a chord resolves someplace that it would not normally resolve, okay? So the main one that you need to know about is that dominant 7th chord, because the dominant 7th chord is the one that 99% of the time wants to resolve right to that, or, you know, right up that perfect 4th to the 1 chord. Now, let's think about that for a second. If you had your G7 chord, right, and it always resolved up to 1 major 7, that's only one way in which you could use a dominant 7th chord, right? Because then it would be constantly a 5 to 1, 5 to 1, 5 to 1, all right? Now, that's great, it's a nice sound, but it, you know, kind of gets old and stale after a while. So this is why we'll end up doing other things like, ooh, changing that G dominant 7th chord to a D flat dominant 7th chord, right? So instead of going 2, 5, 1 like that, 2, 5, 1, okay? But that 5 chord is now changed, right? I'll talk about that in another chapter on 2-5-1s, okay? But anyway, realize that chords do not have to move in the you know, the way that you think that they have to move, okay? They can really move anywhere. I mean, I could do stuff like dominant 7th chord, dominant 7th chord, major 7, major 7. Now, is the progression going to sound good? Well, I mean, that's up to you and up to your ears to decide, is that a nice sounding progression or not, okay? So when chords are moving in a way that is not typical, it is deceptive resolution. I'll see you in the next chapter.